Hey guys, Jeff with Top Star Mobile Detailing Las Vegas, where average is the enemy. Today we're going to be doing a video on how to clean your wheels, some of the different brushes that I use in my detail. We're going to go through a step-by-step process on how to thoroughly clean the wheels. With that being said, let's jump into the video. Okay guys, so first thing you want to have is you have a bucket with grit guard inside, right? So you want this because with all your brushes inside the bucket, all the dirt from the brushes are going to fall to the bottom. You're not going to keep transferring that back onto the wheels. So that being said, we're going to start off with the empty bucket. Here's our water here that we just filled from the water tank. There. That in. Now, I'm going to take this bucket, and that's going to be our seat, right? So we get that ready to go. Now, what I like to put in the bucket as far as soap goes, I like to use dish soap for the wheel bucket, guys. Reason being on this is, one, it's very inexpensive. You can use a good amount in there. Just kind of, it's all about accurate measurements. We got the dish soap in there. The good thing about using dish soap with wheel brushes is it's going to keep your brushes clean while you're doing this. It strips off all the grease and the grime from your brushes, and it's not going to damage the wheels. If anything, it's actually going to help clean the wheels. It's designed to strip off like grease and stuff like that. So I use dish soap in there. You guys can use whatever soap you want. Doesn't really matter on the wheels. So moving in, I'm gonna sit down. There's a lot of different brushes you can use for wheels, guys. So just to show you a few, now you don't need to have 20 different brushes for your wheels, but you do want to have a fairly good selection because every set of wheels is going to be different. So on this one, on the BMW, certain brushes are going to fit, you know, in these gaps here, right, where they're not going to fit in these smaller gaps. So you need multiple brushes to be able to access all the areas of the wheels. And that's why I have a variety of different brushes that I use, right? So we're gonna be using this one, throw that in the bucket. Here's another one that comes in really handy. This one's very important. This is one that you can use to get in through these smaller holes like this, but this is also really great to get all the way back to the back of the barrels where that brake dust builds up in the back. So you need this to get as far back as possible. You can move it up and down like that in the back. That's what's going to clean the back of the rims. You can also use this, if you can see here, to get behind these spokes. There's an area here, you can see my finger. Not a lot of brushes can get back there. This you can actually take and see how that gets behind there like that. So you can use these for complex rims like this to get behind those spokes in the wheel. Very important brush. That being said, this brush, I actually love this, but I also hate this at the same time. The reason being is if you zoom in on the top here, it has this little rubber piece right here, right? These fall off very easily. Guys, this could be a sales call. Could be a spammer, or it could be another ex-girlfriend. I think it might be a client. Let's see. Top Star Detailing, this is Jeff.
Hi, I was wondering if you guys had any availability this morning.
We don't have any availability this morning. Does it have to be this morning, or are you a little bit flexible on the time and days?
Well, we just need to be somewhere at 2, so.
At 2, you have to have it done today?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have any availability this morning. I'm pretty booked up. My next availability is actually going to be a couple days out.
Okay, no worries, next time.
Okay, we appreciate you reaching out. Thank you.
Thank you.
All
Bye.
right, bye. So guys, the thing about this brush, I love this brush, but sometimes I also hate it too. And the reason being is, if you see here on the end, there's a little rubber tip, right? These fall off really easily, right? And you have to be mindful of this because what's on the other side of this rubber one, I saved an old one so I could show you. I actually have 2 of them here. So the problem with these brushes is if that rubber tip falls off, this is metal, right? And it's sharp metal on the other side of that, right? So just to give you an idea of how sharp, like you can scratch, well, it's not really scratching, but you could scratch the concrete with these, right? So they're really, really sharp on the ends. And all that separates that is this little rubber knob on the end, right? So always keep an eye on this brush, because if you take this brush without that rubber piece on there and you start sliding that into someone's rims on a black painted rim like this or something, that's going to take off the paint very, very easily, and you're going to damage their rims. It's a shame too, because this product, you need this brush to get inside this stuff. But when I say these fall off really easy, they fall off. I'll probably go through one of these a month, right? And sometimes if I can find the rubber piece, I'll super glue it back on there to keep it on there. What I might start doing is actually pulling them off ahead of time, like proactively, and then super gluing them with like a Gorilla Glue or something. But if anyone from Easy Detail Brush is watching this video, you guys need to do better on these little tips. I feel like there's some type of engineering that can be done on this to where the rubber comes further down on the brush or something. But so if they fall off, guys, these are basically trash. I just kept them to show you what happens to them, but those are junk. We won't be using those from now on. Gotta have that rubber tip on there. Moving forward, let's see. So for the actual tires, I like to have like a couple of brushes like this. This has a hard bristle to it, and this is what we're going to use on the actual rubber to clean the rubber. So you need one of those. Throw that in the bucket. This brush I picked up, it's more for like tires that have the side knobbies, like on Jeeps, trucks, off-road vehicles, right? This gets down into those grooves that you see, and you can really get out the mud with those, right? We're not going to need that on this particular vehicle because it doesn't have any of that, so we don't need those deep bristles. So we're just going to set that one off to the side. These, I also like to keep a couple of these. These are what you're going to use to clean out where the lug nuts are. You need to be able to get into those little tiny little barrels there. It's also good for cleaning like stuff like that or around this area. I like to keep a couple of them in the bucket just to have. They don't take up much space, so we'll throw those in there as well. Another brush I like to have, this is similar to the brush that you use on the tire, but this is soft bristles. So this you can use on the actual rims themselves, and it's not going to scratch. You don't want to use ones that have the hard bristles on these because you'll actually scratch the material on the rims. So soft bristle brush to get into like these spots on the rims like that comes in handy. See, the bucket's filling up fast, right? So, you know, you do need a pretty good variety of brushes. Another brush I like to use, not on this specific tire, but on bigger vehicles like truck tires, Jeeps, stuff like that. Hard bristle brush, it's the shape of the wheel, and you can kind of really get some pressure into it. These are good for scrubbing really grimy tires. Again, it's too big on this, so you don't really need this on this one. We're going to leave this off to the side. But a good brush to have. That I think I might have picked up at either Walmart or O'Reilly's. I don't remember. Another cool brush to have. These are soft. It's like a soft foam material. And depending on the wheels that you're cleaning, these can be really helpful for like getting in these corner crevices like this here. Some wheels have little smaller holes throughout or patterns. These come in really handy to get into those small patterns and in areas like that. So another brush in the bucket. You can see the bucket is filling up fast with a bunch of different variety of brushes here, guys. But the reality is if you're doing 3, 4, 5 cars a day, you want to have all these because every vehicle is going to have different sets of wheels, different patterns on the wheels, and you don't know which brush you're going to need. So it's good to have all of these in your tool belt, if you will. The bucket's the tool belt, right? You don't want to just have one brush or 2 brushes. You know, that'd be like going to do construction with nothing more than a hammer and maybe a screwdriver and hoping you're going to get through the whole job, right? You need all the tools to perform the job well. One other thing I like to have is an actual mitt, a wash mitt. You know, this just comes in handy sometimes if you just want to grab around or you can get behind like that. I like to keep one of these with me. I also use this for that piece around the wheel there where the brake dust builds up on here. You don't really want to use brushes on that because this is paint and you can mar that. So we'll just use that to go around the rim like that. So keep a you know, an older sponge. Don't mix this with the sponges that you used on paint for your vehicle. Have a separate sponge for this. I keep it, it's a different color, so I don't mix them up, and that always stays in the wheel bucket. Next, you need your products that you're gonna be used to actually cleaning the wheels. For these wheels, I'm using Brake Buster. These wheels are fairly clean already. They don't have heavy buildup on them. So you can use a product like Brake Buster, which is gonna strip off the brake dust, but it's not super hardcore, you know, where it's like a heavy degreaser or something. We just don't need that. It would be overkill for this type of wheel. Knockout is what you use for the actual tires. If the tires have a lot of buildup of the shine on them, maybe, you know, people have been layering shine over shine over shine, or there's heavy dirt, Knockout works really well on the actual rubber and cleaning the rubber, right? So I use a different product for the rubber than I actually do for the wheel itself. I think that's pretty much everything. So we got our brushes, we got our products, and then we got our pressure washer. So when we're getting started with the wheels, the first thing that I like to do is I like to pressure wash all of the loose stuff first, right? So I just kind of go around the wheel, get off all the stuff there, get into the actual wheel well, spray off any loose brake dust. Now, this vehicle doesn't have a lot of brake dust. This is actually my vehicle. For you, those of you that don't know, this is my new tow rig that I got. Being a detailer, I'm pretty OCD with my own vehicle, and I clean my stuff every couple days, so you know it doesn't really ever get buildup on here. But the process is going to be the same whether there's buildup or not. It's just more time and different products. So that being said, we got the wheel prepped. I'm going to start off with a little bit of Brake Buster. We're not going to need a whole lot on this, so we're just going to give it a light misting here. You know, and if there was heavy buildup back in the barrels, I would get back into the actual barrels like that too. This doesn't really have much in there, so again, we're just going light. If you had heavy buildup of the shine on the tires, we're going to use the Knockout, and we're going to go around the tire like so, and just kind of let that sit for 30 seconds or so, do its work. The Brake Buster's kind of eating away at the brake dust. The Knockout's breaking down the shine on the tires. After about 30 seconds or so, we'll get started on that. Roll up the sleeves here so we don't get those wet. Get a little foam going in the bucket. All right, so when I'm cleaning the wheels, I like to pick a focal point to start from, and where I usually will start is the valve stem, just because it makes it easy for me to track what I've already done. A lot of times if you just pick a random spot like over here or over here, you get going, you take a phone call, you get sidetracked, and then you come back to the wheel and you forgot where you're at, right? So I'll usually start at that valve stem, and then I'll work my way around like so, right? It's not gonna fit into where the valve stem is, but we're gonna start at the next one. And you just go gently, you don't have to go super hard on these, you know, just agitating the brake dust like so. And then go back to the bucket, get a little foam, same thing. And we're gonna work our way around the wheel with this brush, right? After we worked our way around the wheel with that brush, then I like to go with the smaller brush, right? This is where we're gonna go back to these smaller ones that we couldn't get in. We're getting behind the rim, and then we're going all the way back to the barrel of the rim as well. So we're getting the barrels there, and we're getting behind the spokes that you can't get to with the other brushes. So that's gonna clean those areas there.
Hey Jeff, one thing I heard about that brush, the splashback.
Yes.
Does that happen?
Yeah, especially if you're jamming it into like rims that have smaller areas. When you're pulling it back, it's going to like spray all that back at you. So you maybe kind of want to do it off at an angle. It's gonna splash on you, pretty much no matter how you do it. I've experimented with this one in all different ways. But the tighter the space, the more it's pulling these back, the more it slings that stuff back at you. And it's usually on the rims that are really nasty and dirty, so you get all that wet brake dust all over your legs and arms and face. So yeah, it is kind of one of those things that you just have to deal with as a detailer. But that's why it's also important to do like a pre-rinse, because you want to get as much of that off as possible. But good question, Reyes. These two here, I'm just gonna set those off to the side for now. And we go to the lug nuts, and we're gonna get in these little holes here. If you don't use this and get in these, when you're done at the end, you're gonna see the dried brake dust around these lug nuts, and most likely your customers are gonna see it too. So it only takes a couple minutes, but it's an important step of cleaning the rims, right? You don't want to half-ass it. So get in these little areas here, do a thorough job, make sure that you're covering all the areas. You can also use this for the brake calipers too. So you see the red calipers here. On high-end exotic vehicles, a lot of people are going to check their calipers. They want to make sure that you're cleaning the calipers, the buildup gets inside those, and it's really noticeable. And on nice vehicles, that's one of the things that stand out on the wheels, right? So you want to make sure those are nice and clean. Get in there. These are fairly clean because this guy's a detailer and he doesn't let the stuff build up. But so lug nuts, calipers, and any other small spaces, these is a good brush to have. And I'm gonna finish doing the whole wheels, guys, but for the time's sake of filming a video, you know, we wanna keep this as minimal as possible, right? So then for the soft brush, you know, this is what I'll use to actually hit the spokes, the faces, just kind of cover the whole rim here. You can get in these sides like this, just makes it easy, right? So soft brush, another option would be on that, would be the mitt, where you can just use this and get in there like so. And I'm wrapping one finger around the back, so I'm also getting the back side of that at the same time. You could use a microfiber cloth for this as well. I just like using the sponge, or the mitt rather, because this can get into all those areas, and it's gonna strip off the brake dust on the faces of the wheels. Right, so that's done, and then don't forget this strip here. A lot of people forget this, and then you'll see that at the end. So do that. You want to use your wheel sponge for that. Don't use the sponge that you're using for the rest of the car, because this area is grimy and it'll transfer into your other bucket. And then last thing is the actual rubber tires itself. Again, these don't have much buildup on them. They're properly maintained. So we're just going to give it a light scrub. By doing this, it's going to help when you put the shine on. It'll help the shine actually stick to the rubber a lot better and prevent that sling that you get all down the side. So that pretty much covers the whole wheel, guys. We got the wells, we got the rubber, we got in all the spokes, behind the spokes, the barrels of the rims, the lug nut areas, and then the calipers. Last thing to do is just rinse everything off. That's pretty much it, guys. You got a nice clean wheel there. One thing we didn't really go into was the actual wheel wells. This vehicle is clean on the wheel wells, but if you're doing like a truck or a Jeep or something, you're going to want to clean the wheel wells as well, because if you get the tires nice and clean, but there's dirt on the wells, they are going to notice that at the end. I do have a separate brush for the wheel wells. It's basically the same as one of these with just a longer handle. So I'm not going to go run and grab that right now, but they do have brushes specifically designed for the wheel wells. I covered this in another video too, but usually after a really thorough cleaning like this, it's normal that you're going to get some flash rust on the actual disc later. So once this dries, it's going to have a really thin micro layer of what's called flash rust on the disc. You just want to let clients know that as soon as they tap the brake, that's going to remove that, and they'll be right back to that nice bright silver again. So you know, if your client ever does say, oh, it looks rusted, it's because you just cleaned it and it's reacting to the air. So it is normal that it'll get that layer of rust like that. It'll go away very quickly. And that's pretty much it, guys. That's how you clean a wheel properly and you get it to where it looks like it's brand new again. Okay guys, so now that all the wheels and tires have been cleaned, the last step is going to be to dry them before we put the shine on, right? So sometimes what I like to do is I'll just take my air tool, my air compressor, use this to take off the majority of the water, and then I'll follow that up with a towel to wipe the rims. So we got most of the water off. Now we're just going to give it a quick wipe. Take my wheel towel, and just give the spokes a little dry here. So this is an older towel. You can tell that it's got some dirt on it. This is what I use for door jambs and wheels, right? It's still a pretty plush, like microfiber where it's absorbent, but I'm not using my $30, $40 Dreadnought towels on wheels either. These are nice too because it's thin enough to where you can get in there and you know, get behind the spokes and stuff too. So it's like $9. It's a Walmart towel. From there, we just let it air dry and it's good to go. For the tires, before you put the shine on, you want to make sure that the tires are completely dry. Don't put shine on wet tires because having any water between the shine and the rubber is gonna not let it bond to the rubber, and that's what gives it that sling all down the side. So these are nice and dry. We can put the shine on and then they'll be good to go. Okay, so now that the wheels are fully clean, the tires are nice and dry, the last step is to put the shine on. One of the things I like to make sure is I use gloves for this step because this stuff, it gets in your fingernails. It's like black, grimy, nasty stuff. So I always use gloves for this stage. And what I like to do, I don't spray it directly on the tire. You could, if it's not windy. If it's windy at all, don't spray it like that. It'll blow all over the spokes. It'll blow down the side of the vehicle. We're actually going to be ceramic coating this vehicle later, so I don't want to take any chances of it getting on the rest of the vehicle. So what I'm going to do is just spray some on the applicator, like so. And then we're just going to apply that to the tire directly. Go around the whole wheel. And some tires will have a seam along where the rim meets the rubber there, a seam about that big. This one actually doesn't, but if you kind of get your thumb on the applicator and just bring it around so it's applying a little bit of pressure, you can see how it makes a nice, like a seal right to the edge of the rim. If you get a little bit on the rim, you know, like a little stuff like that, when you're done, you're just gonna wanna give the rim a wipe around the edge like that so the client doesn't see shine on their nice clean rims. And then as far as on the edge of the tire, you don't need to shine into the flat surface of the tire because that's just gonna go on the street again anyway. That's gonna come right off. If you're taking photos for like Instagram or something like that, a lot of times I'll just like to go maybe that far in to where it's gonna look cool for the photos, you know. It's just kind of personal preference on that, but it does stand out when you're doing photos or making reels or videos where if you just get that to the first tread in there where it just makes for nice photos. And that's pretty much it. You don't need a ton of shine on that, just enough to give it a nice outer look, a nice shine. Don't put too much, otherwise it's gonna sling down the sides of the vehicle once they start moving. So keep that in mind. So that's pretty much it as far as the wheel process goes, guys. That's how I do it. That's the process that I follow as far as cleaning your rims, tires, and then this would be the finished product, what you see here. Let me know what you guys think, and we'll see you in the next one.